Hello, my name is Steve Gearhart and this is the Unagi Observer. As a matter of fact, this is the first episode of the 2020 season. Thank you so much for coming by. If you have been watching this particular channel for a while, thank you very much. And if you're new here, I hope you like what you see and maybe you might even subscribe. The goal is, the next goal is 250 subscribers, and if we get there, then it'll be a digital sushi roll for you guys. Who doesn't like sushi? So that's kind of the goal for the season, to get to 250. As I mentioned in previous videos, I've kind of cleaned up the channel, took out a lot of stuff that was not original content, and left original content for the most part in here, in the efforts to hopefully maybe get a broader platform to be able to use it, because sometimes when you don't use original programming, it kind of limits you. So anyway, hopefully you guys will help me out by subscribing and watching. Wouldn't that be great? So anyway, the theme for this season is going to be retro, and part of the reason why I came up with that is literally because some of the videos that I had to take down, the original ones are in a blog that you can see if you want. The link will be down below. I had to take down because of lack of original content or something of that nature. So we'll actually be redoing those. So some of those you might see later on. You'll be like, hey, wait a minute, didn't he do that a couple years ago? Hopefully it'll even be a better video. Today's video is going to be one of those. So anyway, so yeah, retro. And what do I mean by retro? We're going to do everything or talk about things before 1990. The 90s have a special little time period of 10 years of really interesting choices in anime in terms of style, plots, and things like that. So that's its own category, I think. So we're going to do retro stuff, and we're going to talk about movies, we're going to talk about music, anime, manga, all that good stuff. We're also going to talk periodically about historical things, some current stuff, and things like that. But anyway, so retro is the theme. So hopefully you guys will like this season, and hoping you will. And as a result, a whole bunch of you will subscribe. Okay, anyway, so the next, so the very first episode we're going to talk about is an anime that I actually had to take down because I accidentally somehow put in a very adult picture without realizing it. I didn't look in the background, and now that I know about it, it's kind of obvious, but it got an adult label slapped to it, so that means that almost nobody can see it unless you sign into it. So anyway, so we're going to redo that one, and we're going to start with it right now, so let's get to it.
Space Adventure Cobra.
Space Adventure Cobra. Okay, this is a great little anime. It actually, like many anime, starts off as a manga. It started in 1977, and it sold really, really well. It turned into about 2 or 3 different anime series. I think I'm going to be talking one. I think it's the second series, and it's an OVA, and or not an OVA, sorry. It did actually get aired in Japan between 1982 and 1983. Space Adventure Cobra, and so it's just an interesting little anime. It's right at the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s. So this, you see a big shift between what was the animation to kind of the stock animation that you saw in the 70s, which was kind of a little jerky, and it becomes a little bit more fluid. The story is also a lot different, and that's part of the reason why it got really, really popular. So let's go ahead and start talking about who created it.
As with many classic anime, Space Adventure Cobra came from a popular manga. It was created by Buichi Terasawa, who in turn was directly mentored by the great manga artist Osamu Tezuka. Terasawa often cites that if he had not been tutored by the great Tezuka, then Cobra would never have been created. So Terasawa had wanted to create a story that was both space opera and spaghetti western. Terasawa was also a huge James Bond fan and a huge fan of Star Trek as well. As a result, all this came together to create Space Adventure Cobra's story. Now, if Space Adventure Cobra seems familiar to those of you who are younger, it should be. It is a direct influence on Cowboy Bebop. They both have similar themes. The main characters are both anti-heroes, and they are both set in space with a Western vibe to it. Even the villains seem to be the same, as both are in similar types of guilds. Now, to be honest, I did not come across Space Adventure Cobra as it aired in the 1980s. It wasn't something that came across on local television. However, I did learn about it when watching Otaku no Video for the first time. Now, for you Otakon fans, you know that is the beginning and ending anime program for the convention. Within that anime, which is a parody of itself, one of the characters cosplays as Space Adventure Cobra. Now, once I saw that, I knew I had to watch the anime. Now here's another little interesting tidbit. The premise in the first episode of Space Adventure Cobra is the premise of the Total Recall movies from the original story called We Can Remember It For You Wholesale by Philip K. Dick. Now, if that name seems to be familiar to you, is because Philip K. Dick also wrote Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner story. So, kind of to tie it all in, let me give you a brief plot summary, and you'll see why this is also very interesting.
Okay, the plot of this particular series. So, it has a very strong tie-in for those of you who are science fiction fans, and as I noted earlier, it has a connection to Total Recall, and I'll explain that as I explain the plot. The plot is pretty basic, but it's interesting. So basically what happens is that there's this guy, he's a salary man, he doesn't really make a whole lot of money, he's in the far future, and he doesn't make a whole lot of money, he kind of does odd jobs, and he wakes up one day and he's a bit of a doofus. His name is Johnson, and he's kind of like an awkward kind of woman chasing kind of guy, and he's just really just lives in the moment, but very lazily is the best way I can describe it. He's a doofus. So anyway, so he gets up one day, and he has a robot by the name of Ben. So Ben one day says, "Hey Johnson, why don't you go down? You don't have a whole lot of money. Why don't you just take a quick vacation? One of those, 30-minute vacations where they put you under and they slap electrodes to your head, and you can experience a vacation, or maybe be a secret agent in a movie or something like that. So why don't you go down to this place down here and just plug in for 30 minutes and just spend your day off doing that." And Johnson's like, "Okay, that sounds like a good idea." And he goes in and he does the thing, and just like in Total Recall, suddenly these memories start coming in, and he sort of vaguely remembers that he was once, or thinks he might be, a space pirate. And that while he was under, and these memories that come in that feel true to him, his left arm is a gun. It looks like a plasma gun, almost like a cannon. And so he comes out of this and he's really confused, and he's trying to figure this out, and he says something to somebody about it, and they're like, "Oh, okay." And they get on the phone, they go, he knows. And so the rest of the series is basically him running around being chased by other space pirates and authorities who go, "Oh, this is where he is now." And so he embarks on all these different adventures, and he comes across one of his former cohorts, Armor Droid, which is a female android, and she helps him get his memories. So each episode he gets a little bit of his memory back, and he starts piecing things together, and then finally he figures out, oh my gosh, there's a plot to take over the galaxy, and then the rest of the story goes on from there. Like I said, it's kind of better animation. It's not as good as what we have today, but when you compare it to what was just mere 3 or 4 years before, the animation is really pretty solid when you compare the two. And it's actually a fun story. It is a little bit of the adult nature. There's some stuff that goes on in there, so maybe not good for the 10-year-old mindset. This is more for the adults, but still a lot of fun. And it's very interesting, especially when he pulls out, like when his arm turns into a cannon. It's kind of funny, and just watching him blow people away. Anyway, so hopefully this will entice you to see the video. Do I recommend this anime? Absolutely, I actually do. It's fun. It's not anything. You're not going to get any deep meaning out of it. You're going to see a lot of good scientific tropes come out of it. Like I said, there's some influences in there from Philip K. Dick. and it's just fun. It's just really, really fun. So just give it a try, and see what you think. And this is most important. It has an amazing soundtrack, 80s soundtrack. Of course, it's J-pop in the 80s, so keep that in mind. But it's actually kind of cool. And another little note, side note about Space Adventure Cobra. If you grew up in the 90s or you went to college in the 90s like I did, there was a guy named Matthew Sweet who had one really big hit song. I'll put the link down to the video down below. I would say about 70% of the video is Space Action Cobra. Matthew Sweet was a big anime fan. So anyway, there you go. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for the time to check this out. I hope you like it. If you like it, hit the like button. And if you would like to see more or see someone I've done and you want to subscribe, please subscribe. I would love it if you subscribe. We get up to 250 people, 250 subscribers. Digital sushi for you guys. Who doesn't want digital sushi? It's good stuff. Well, for me, it'll be good. It'll be digital for you. But anyway, so let's go ahead and hit those goals. I hope you liked today's video. And yeah, my name is Steve Gerhardt. This is the Unagi Observer. And you guys are awesome. And I'll see you next time.